Welcome back to the kitchen. In continuing our project for the duck, I told you I was going to do a video on how to mimic a confit, which, if you recall, just means preserved, by using sous vide. So sous vide is another French term, just means under vacuum. It's become a little more popular of late by these immersion circulators. So essentially, what all this is a little motor that can circulate the water, and a thermometer, or a heating element and a thermometer that lets us tell what the temperature is. And it will allow you to set your temperature precisely and then hold it there for a long period of time. So what we're going to do is we're going to cook this duck till it's 155 degrees, and we're going to cook it there for about 36 hours. And that seems like a really long time, but when you're cooking it at exactly the right temperature that it needs to be done, it takes a lot longer than if you cook it at a higher temperature. So if you recall, I was doing the duck breast with a koji marinade, and I've wiped that off this morning in order to make sure it doesn't turn into more of a charcuterie. I've cut, if you look down here, you can see that I have cut the skin away here, and that should cause the skin to buckle up here as it cooks. It's a pretty classic preparation and helps to keep the skin on there. Now, before I put it in my vacuum bag, and vacuum is in quotes here because I'm just going to be using a freezer-style Ziploc bag, but the reason it needs to be under vacuum is because I don't want to actually poach it in this water. I want to just cook it. Now, to mimic the confit, I'm actually going to be cooking it, or putting some duck fat in here. Now, this is duck fat I've kept from previous cookings of duck. I just kept it in the freezer after I was done with it. I strained it out and made sure it was just pure fat, and then I put it in a bag, stuck it in the freezer. And as you can tell, the last time I used it was in 2021, last year. So, with all that said, I'm actually going to add a little more salt and some pepper and some thyme in there. And the reason I'm going to add some salt, even though the koji had some salt to it, is I'm not entirely positive I added enough koji to it. So I'm just going to give it a light dusting of salt, and then we're going to add some pepper. We'll stick it in the bag, and we will seal it up. And I may have to come back and show you how to seal it later, because I don't think I can do this one-handed, and my videographer is currently in swim lessons. So just going to give it a little bit of a sprinkle, kind of a chef sprinkle. The reason we do it from up high, and I would encourage you to do it from up high as well, is because it helps to distribute it better. You know, when you sprinkle from down low, you're very precisely placing, and as you twist your fingers like that, it kind of spreads out a bit more. So here we go. A little bit more salt, one more application. That should be plenty. Now, time for our pepper. I pre-ground this pepper before doing this, just because I did not think I wanted to try to manipulate the pepper grinder with one hand. I'm sure you'll forgive me. You're very kind, audience. Let's just pour that into my hand there. And we will... Alright, now we got some salt and pepper. Now it's time for our bag. So I'm just going to stick those in there, awkwardly, one-handedly. we go. Set that aside. Now, I could just stick the time in there. I could seal it up, push all the air out, and then after I do that, just cook it for 36 hours, and that would work, and that would just be pure sous vide process. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my reserved duck fat. Does that make it a true confit? No. But I'm hopeful that some of the oil-based flavor that comes in the thyme and the pepper, and even just in the duck in general, and kind of the extra fat there, may help add some flavor. Now let's see here. I need to grab scissors here because I don't think it'll pour nicely if I don't. And I am just going to add all of this fat in here because, there we go. Now, let's see, can I successfully get this in there? Yes, I can. And the other thing this will do is, even though it's not completely submerged like a confit would be, it is going to be much more surrounding. And since we have 4 thighs in here, 4 quarters, it will be a problem if I want to make sure all that air is out of there. And so in this case, we're going to have this extra liquid fat fill in those voids for us. So I'm going to pause, I'm going to seal this up, and I'm going to submerge it in here to push all the air out. I'll do a separate video on how to do that with less hot water with another videographer so I can demonstrate better. In the meantime, I'll be right back. And we're back. And here you can see I've got all the air out. The fat is filling in the voids. And now it's ready to go into the circulator. So notice it's not, because there's no air in here, it's not really floating. I may have a little air bubble there, but that's okay. So now I'm just going to grab this little clip, and this little clip will just help me to keep the tip, the top of it, out from underwater. If you have it fully vacuum sealed, probably don't need to do that. But I don't have a vacuum sealer, and so I use Ziploc bags. I recommend highly that you use freezer bags because they're thicker and they're less prone to leaks. And when it leaks, it's a pain in the butt. So there you go. Now, and double check that my timer is set. There we go. There we go. It's 36 hours. Yeah, that's a long time. But by the end of this will be perfectly cooked and fall apart tender and ready. And we'll just keep it in the bag because there's no air in there, right? So we're just going to keep it in the bag until Thanksgiving, and it should be ready to eat. It doesn't need, as long as I keep it in the fridge and keep it sealed and not open in the bag, when we bring it out for Thanksgiving, it'll be all ready for us. Now, one other thing I'm going to do, because it's going to take 36 hours, is I am going to put some cling wrap over the top just to help with, you can see all the steam coming out. This will help keep the steam from totally evaporating away, at least to some degree. I may have to top it up with some water, and if I do, I'll just put hot water in there, and that will help to keep the level up. If you see at the bottom there, it's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can get in closer. There's a min water level line there, and I need to keep the water above that min line. And so the plastic wrap on top is going to help me do that. That way it doesn't all evaporate away. So I'll check in later, but here's my duck. 36 hours to go. See you soon. Bye. Okay, so we're back at the end-ish of our sous vide / confit experiment. Still 150 degrees. Oh, oops. Still 150 degrees. And technically 3.5 hours left. means it's been going for 32.5 hours. That's quite a long time. And I haven't, now just so you know, I haven't added any water to this since we started. And you can see the water line is still it's getting pretty low to the minimum line, but that's okay because we are pretty much done here. And you can see that the water is clear. That's a good indication with sous vide that your bag didn't have a leak, even though I can smell this duck. Yep, pull it out and it turned off because there was not enough water. Look at that. Look at that. You can see at the bottom, look at all the juice from there. And then all the lighter colored stuff is just the fat. So here it is on its side. Now, I don't need it right now. So what I'm going to do, you can see here, you saw where I cut away the tendons. Now you saw how they pulled up there. So this is just ready. So it's going to go on a tray. Rihanna, can you get me a tray, like a quarter sheet tray? And the reason I'm going to put it on like a tray is because while it's not leaking now, I don't trust it to not leak for the rest of the time before Thanksgiving. So here we go. And there, it's just going to head right to the fridge. It's okay, we can leave it here. We'll end the video. Yes, so, I'm if you're looking to have a try a sous vide machine, think of this. You know, you don't have to do this just with duck. You can also do this with turkey. In fact, I'm going to be doing something similar with turkey here, just for this week. But this becomes very, very tender, and because it's never been above 155 degrees. You know, normally when you think of duck, they say cook it to like 160, or chicken, they say cook it to 180. So this was only cooked to 155 degrees, but it's very tender. You can see the meat starting to fall apart there.
But that's the same problem.
What's wrong?
You won't get crispy skin.
Oh, you don't think we're going to have crispy skin? See all the skin right here? That's all been rendered down to its utmost. So now, when we get ready to roast it, we're going to take it out. We're going to clean off all of the juice and clean off the fat. And then, after we clean that off, then we will crisp the skin. So we'll still get our crispy skin. It's just going to come at the very end.